I want to talk about the work habits of a leader. Wherever I go and whenever I meet leaders, and by God's grace, I've been able to meet some leaders of whole countries, huge multinational corporations, large NGOs, little youth groups. I meet a lot of leaders. And often, if I can pull the covers back a little bit and say, what do you struggle with every day? Really? They'll say, actually, it's my work habits. Sometimes I see the overwhelming need, and I don't know how to order my life to make the maximum contribution I can make to this organization that I'm supposed to be leading. Many leaders incorrectly assume that the most important leadership asset is their time. Because people are always clamoring for more of your time. It must be extremely valuable, right? I humbly disagree. I've concluded the leader's most valuable asset is their energy and their ability to energize other people. Their ability to energize visions, their ability to energize the values of the organization, to energize the culture, their ability to energize new initiatives. Now that is something absolutely unique about a leader. It's their energizing capabilities. This is rarely talked about, but so critical to leadership. The way I stumbled upon this discovery is that I was on a plane coming back to Chicago from training leaders in Europe. The closer we got to the U.S., the more I realized how much work was waiting for me back at the church. I'd been gone for 3 weeks. It was mid-November. The Christmas season was just around the corner, and I could feel the anxiety starting to build up in my spirit the closer we got to Chicago. So I prayed the leader's prayer. You all know the leader's prayer. Dear God, help, please help fast. I need help so desperately. It's not a particularly deep prayer, but extremely sincere in my view. For some reason, after the prayer, I took out my journal that I write in when I'm thinking leadership thoughts, and I wrote one of the best questions that I had written in a long time. Here's what I wrote in my journal that day. God, in the remaining 6 weeks of this calendar year, because that's about all I had, what would be the greatest half-dozen contributions I could make to the church that you and I both love? Between now and the end of the year, what would be the greatest half-dozen contributions I could make to the church that you and I both love? And of course, you love it more. Answering that single question took the remaining 2 hours of that flight into Chicago. It required some of the most intense thinking I had done in months. Partway through that exercise, it started to become clear to me that my most important contribution between then and the end of the year was that I was going to have to energize some people, and I was going to have to energize some initiatives. Then I got very specific to see if I could prioritize 6, and so I did. I said, I need to energize the team that's planning our Christmas Eve services. I need to energize the whole Willow congregation to give generously to an AIDS in Africa initiative that we had committed to. I need to energize the building committee of our board to take several $1 million of cost out of a building that we were building that was getting too expensive. I had to energize a reorganization process that we were doing in one of our student ministries. I had to energize myself for the teaching assignments I had through the rest of the year and so forth. But after 2 hours of thinking this through, just as the plane was starting its approach into Chicago, I reached for an index card in my briefcase, and I put the letters 6 by 6, just like that, 6 by 6, on the top of that little index card. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to do these 6 things. I'm going to focus on these 6 things with the 6 weeks I have left in the year. I looked at that 6 by 6 as I'd written all that stuff down on it. And no kidding, I felt a sense of clarity and excitement that was totally different than how I had felt a couple hours prior to that. I felt focused instead of overwhelmed, fired up instead of anxious. I could barely wait to get back into the office. The next morning, I went into work early, and I prayed over that 6 by 6 card, saying, God, if we could achieve these 6 challenges together in the next 6 weeks, your church would be in fantastic shape by year end. I was like a heat-seeking missile those 6 weeks at the end of that year. I prayed like a mad monk. I energized all of what needed energizing, and I deliberately disregarded second-tier activities. And 5 out of the 6 challenges on that little index card got done by year end. And on December 31st of that year end, I was filled with such a sense of exhilaration. I was so grateful to God. When the new year rolled around, I decided to try this practice again. I asked myself, God, what would be the greatest half dozen unique and significant contributions that I could make to our church in the first 6 weeks of the new year? Side note, there's nothing sacred about 6 weeks or 6 unique contributions. But I can't sprint for 6 months. None of you can. But you can all sprint for 6 weeks. Most of us leaders are juggling dozens of challenges and dozens of responsibilities, and to prioritize it down to 6 that will most impact your organization. Not the 6 you most feel like doing, 6 that will most impact your organization. If you do that, hone that down to 6, it will help you more than you think. Hence, sort of the 6 by 6. During the next 6 weeks, the second round that I did this, I worked with tremendous focus. I prayed with greater specificity and fervency, and I shook my head when almost all the objectives got done again. What happened next, when I decided to take this round 3, brought this concept to a whole different level. For the first 2 rounds of this, I hadn't changed anything in my daily schedule to accommodate this new practice. I was having the same meetings, the same times with the same people. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, what if I arrange my daily and weekly schedule around my 6 by 6 card? This was the single greatest breakthrough of my working practice life. Putting what I call energy bursts against overwhelming odds and seeing God do incredible, supernatural things. But I'm fired up about this. And I've got that 6 by 6 card. And I look at it every day and it drives me. Sometimes I look at leaders who are far more gifted than me, far smarter than me. They went to educational environments that far surpassed the little colleges that I went to. And when I get them in private conversations, they say, I don't know how to address my work. I get to the end of a day and I responded to stuff all day. And I gently remind them, God didn't make you a leader to respond to stuff all day. God made you a leader to move stuff ahead. So what are you going to move ahead? Is it important to your organization? Is it the most important important contribution you can make to your organization at this particular time? I would love to see the day when every serious-minded leader in every organization came to work every day and just said, here, in the next 6 weeks, is what I can do to powerfully move this organization ahead.